What's up, everybody? Hey, it's Mike Widmer with the Expansion Real Estate Group. Happy Friday the 13th to you all. Hope you guys have an amazing day. Welcome to this month's edition of the Monthly Market Update. So today is Friday the 13th, a day generally, associated with fear and superstition. But the good thing is when it comes to the real estate market, the biggest danger isn't bad luck. The biggest danger is not knowing what's going on in the market. So that's what you guys got me. So let's dive right into these stats and see what this market's doing here in Phoenix. All right, starting off where we always do with the Cromford Market Index. Again, this chart goes back 26 years. 100 is a neutral market, and here's where we're at today. So at the end of last month, we started off at 88 on the Cromford Market Index, and we actually dropped all the way down to 83.3, which is a 4.7 point drop on the index. And that's actually the largest monthly drop we've had since November of 23 to December of 23. So we talked about last month, the inventory coming way up, and the Cromford has dropped down. Started the month at 83.3, and then today we're sitting at 82.9. So it has slowed down a little bit, that pace, and you can kind of see here on our daily chart. We talked about this last month. We were right about here. We did the video last month, and I said, hey, if this inventory stays high, there's a very good chance that this continues to trend downwards. And it has. The last week or so, it started to kind of slow down a little bit, which is good. So right now, if we're sitting at 82.9 on the Cromford, that means we're only down 0.4 so far, and it's already the 13th of the month. So that's looking like a much slower pace of decline. And Michael was talking a little bit here. If some things keep happening that are happening right now, we actually could see that reverse here in a couple weeks. So we'll see what happens there. The supply index continued to rise, although not anywhere near as close as it was last month. So last month we had 18,485 active single-family home listings, and today we have 18,720. That's a 1.2% increase, which is a far cry. Remember, last month we had 9.8, almost a 10% increase in inventory last month. So 1.2 is looking great. In the first few weeks of this month, they've actually really started to level out. So that's what he's talking about. This lack of inventory rising is going to help this number here go up because demand has increased a little bit. Last month on the demand, we were at 84, and today we're at 86.2. And the biggest reason for that, and we'll see if it changes next month. There's a chance it might go back down. I'll explain why. Looking at interest rates, 2 Fridays ago, we had just an incredible, actually it was almost the whole week, we had a huge drop in rates. And we actually, for the first time in forever, the average 30-year conventional loan was under 6%. It was at 5.98. If you look here, we have to go all the way back, way over here to September 8th of 2022. So we're almost 4 years ago since we've had rates below 6%. So that's really, really exciting. Getting those 5% is going to drive more buyers to get on the market, and it's just going to help our market increase overall. But unfortunately for us, the day after rates hit their lowest point in 4 years, we started a new war. And war is not good for interest rates, especially when it has to do with oil. The fear of the lack of oil, you've all seen on the gas pumps going from, here in Phoenix around $3.25 to well over $4. I paid $4.45 yesterday. So the reason that matters is because they're scared that the fuel costs will rise inflation. Remember that the Fed looks at two things when we're looking at interest rates. It's inflation and it's the job report. So we've had kind of both things here. The job report was horrendously bad this month, but now with this change in the war and gas prices going up, the rates have went up a lot, almost about a quarter point from where they got down to just in about 2 weeks. So we'll see what happens there. But we can't control the rates. They're just going to do what they do. But we do know the lower they get, the more active this market's going to be. And just taking a quick look here. So there is some good news, right? I don't have all bad news here on Friday the 13th. So last month we closed, this is new homes and resales, we closed 5,676 closed transactions. That's up 17.5% from January. January was quite a horrendous month overall across the country, but we had a huge increase, 17.5% increase in 1 month in those closed sales. So that's really important. And then this chart here, this is a chart that you can kind of see on the right-hand side here. This is 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. And these are the number of listings that are currently under contract. Not active, not inventory, but that have an accepted offer on them. And right here, in the middle here, that darker green line is 2026. And right now we're sitting at about 9,300 listings under contract, which is higher than any time in the past 3 years. And you can kind of see there's a pretty, besides 2022, this is where our drop started off, there's usually a point here, right? We always talk about the first 3 or 4 months of the year. Kind of the start of May, you can see all these past years, that the number of listings in the content, and they dwindle all the way till the end of the year. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens here in this next 3 months. Will this number continue to rise? If it does, that means our market's going to stay strong and that Cromford will increase towards the seller's market. If we have a reversal in this because rates went back up or whatever else may happen and it comes down here, then we'll probably see the Cromford start to fall. One more piece of good news. I showed you guys this chart last week. This is the top 18 cities here in Phoenix. And last month, if you remember, of the 18, 16 of the cities had dropped in the Cromford Index. The good news is there's still some red on here, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 out of the 18 cities went up this past month in the Cromford Index. Chandler's still leading the way up here at 150. So Chandler still is in the seller's market. And for the first time in forever, I love my Maricopa. I'm actually going down there today to do a listing. But Maricopa surpassed Buckeye. And so Buckeye now is the lowest of the top 18 cities on the Cromford Market Index. So good news, things are changing, inventory is leveling, demand's increasing. All those things are positive for the market to increase. And then one of the things I want to go over with you guys today is a couple months ago, I talked about President Trump throwing out the idea of banning institutional investors from buying houses. There actually is now a full-fledged bill called the 21st Century Road to Housing Act that's in Congress. It seems to have bipartisan support, so it looks like it should get done. I think there's certainly some things that has to be ironed out, but there's kind of 3 main things that they're going to try to do, really 2, kind of first and third kind of tie together. But what even when Trump was first elected, I did videos on the new HUD secretary, and they kept on throwing out the word affordability. That really is a main concern for this administration, and they're doing whatever they can to help, not necessarily bring housing prices down, but help to level them out and bring rates down. And the biggest reason they feel like there is such high prices is because there's not enough homes out there for everybody. So one of the things they're going to do in this bill is they're going to try to make it easier and faster for builders to get through the permitting process. There's so much red tape in this country. Every little thing has 10 inspections. So what they're going to try to do is make it just a little bit easier for these builders to buy a plot of land, get it mapped out, do all the things we got to do, and then start building. Because they think there's an increase in inventory of housing. That's obviously going to help release that pressure and keep prices more level. The second thing they're going to do, again, with this institutional investors, they came up with a few new rules trying to identify who that is. So right now in this bill, they're stating that anybody who owns, or any entity that owns more than 350 properties is considered an institutional investor. And what they're going to say is those companies can no longer, they're restricted, banned from purchasing single-family homes. There is some exceptions to that. I'm sure you guys have seen it here in Phoenix. They're building entire neighborhoods now that are built to rent, where one company gets with the builder and they build 100, 200, 500 houses, not to sell, but to rent out. So they can still do that. They can still build their own. And they can also buy homes if their intention is to get somebody in there to rent to own, like a lease purchase or a lease option. So again, that does help get maybe some underqualified buyers into homes. Again, trying to promote home ownership. And then there's one other thing that I don't know if this one's going to last or this gets kind of scratched out at the end. They're trying to make a rule where any institutional investor would have to sell the property within the first 7 years, which would really put a damper on this build to rent. They're not doing these build to rent communities to think it for 5 to 7 years. They're doing it for like 15 to 30 years in their plan. So it'd be really interesting to see what happens there. And then kind of the last thing, just, they're trying to cut the federal red tape again, reduce those delays, just make it easier overall to build more houses. So we'll see what happens here, but this is a live bill in Congress that will probably be passed here in the next couple months. All right, let's shut this off here real quick. And then kind of just want to wrap up today. I want to share kind of a cool story. Last month, I got to go to Family Reunion. So Family Reunion is a Keller Williams thing. They kind of do 2 big events per year. There was 13,000 Keller Williams agents from across the world at this 4-day event. And I think most of you know that 2 years ago, I took advantage of an opportunity within Keller Williams and Keller Home Loans to get my lender's license. I'm a licensed loan officer as well as a real estate broker. And I had a very, very successful year last year. I ended up being number 3 in the country for this new Agent Plus program for Keller Williams. And they invited me to come and speak at the panel for Family Reunion. It was an amazing opportunity and I was just so grateful to do that. And we had a long conversations now with these rates coming down where there's going to be a lot of opportunities to do a refinance. So if you're out there right now and you have an interest rate on your home, 6.5 or higher, probably want to reach out to me because we're probably in that ballpark where it's going to make sense for you to refinance and start to save on your monthly bill. So we'll see what happens on that. We'll see what these interest rates do. We'll see how this war goes. There's so many outside factors going on. But as we talked about at the very beginning here, what really matters for you guys is you have the straight, true information, what's going on in the market, and that's going to help you guys make your decisions. So have a wonderful month, and we'll see you back here in 30 days.